Hello everyone, in this class report, we will navigate through the fascinating landscape of the relevant cost for decision making, shedding the light on its fundamental concept, application, and other relevance to our coursework. Relevant cost for decision making refers to expenses and revenues directly affecting choices, helping in making informed decisions by considering only pertinent future costs and benefits. So by focusing on costs directly impacted on a decision, it helps avoid unnecessary information, enabling businesses to make informed and financially sound choices that align with their objectives. Next is the identifying relevant costs and benefits. Relevant costs and benefits involves recognizing and analyzing the specific financial factors that directly influence a decision. Relevant costs are expenses tied to a particular choice, while relevant benefits are associated with gains. So this careful identification is crucial for accurate decision making, helping businesses assess the true economic impact of each option. Avoidable cost is an expense that can be eliminated or reduced by choosing a different option or course of action. It is directly tied to a specific decision and ceases to exist if that decision is changed. So there are two broad categories of costs that are never relevant in decision. First is the sunk cost, and second is the future costs that do not differ between the alternatives. First is the sunk cost. Sunk cost refers to expenditures that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered regardless of future decisions. A real-life example of a sunk cost is purchasing a non-refundable ticket for a concert and later deciding not to attend. The money spent on the ticket is a sunk cost because it cannot be recovered regardless of the decision to go to concert or not. Therefore, it should not influence the choice of attending the event. And that's all for my part.
Different costs for different purposes. Costs that are relevant in one decision situation are not necessarily relevant in another. This only means that managers need different costs for different purposes. Why? Simply because there are some particular groups of costs that may be relevant to one purpose but are irrelevant for another. To further understand this concept, let us solve this example. Catherine is currently an accountancy student in Boston and would like to visit Sophia in New York City. She's trying to decide whether to drive or take the train. Because she is on a tight budget, she wants to carefully consider the cost of the two alternatives. By car, the distance between her apartment and Sophia's apartment in NYC is 230 miles. Kat has compiled the following list of items to consider. So, ang kinahanatang buhaton is to identify and eliminate ang costs and benefits nga irrelevant sa decision between alternatives. Item A is considered a sunk cost and therefore irrelevant sa decision. Item B, cost of gasoline is relevant, but if Kat takes the train, this cost will not be incurred. Item C is irrelevant as it remains the same regardless of whether Kat takes the train or drives. The cost of maintenance and repairs is irrelevant to the decision. Item E is not relevant. Item F, the total average cost per mile, as discussed above, contains both relevant and irrelevant elements. Reduction in the resale value of car is relevant as it is a real cost of using the car that should be considered. The cost of a round-trip ticket on Amtrak is relevant because if Kat drives, she wouldn't have to purchase this ticket. Item I is relevant because it represents the benefit of relaxing and studying while on the train. The cost of putting Kat's dog in the kennel is irrelevant. Items K and L are relevant to the decision as well as the item M, the cost of parking in New York City. Bringing together all of the relevant data, Kat would estimate the relevant cost of driving and taking the train as follows. So 460 miles kay 230 miles pa doon sa iyong amiga o pabalik sa iyong apartment sa Boston. Therefore, from a purely financial standpoint, it would be cheaper to take the train than to drive.
Good day everyone, I am Josephine Fitzsippison and I am going to discuss about the reconciling the total and differential approaches. So the book gave an example para ma-understand na to somewhat ang concept. So Oak Harbor Woodworks is considering a new labor-saving machine that rents for $3,000 per year. The machine will be used on the company's butcher block production line. Data concerning the company's annual sales and cost of butcher block with and without the new machine are shown below. So units produced and sold from the current situation, a new machine is 5,000, selling price per unit is $40, direct materials cost per unit is 14, the direct labor cost per unit sa current situation is 8, and with the new machine is 5, variable overhead cost per unit is 2, and fixed cost others is 62,000, fixed cost rental of new machine sa current situation is wala, and with the new machine is 3,000. Given the data above, the net operating income from the product under the two alternatives can be compared as shown in the Exhibit 13-1. So here in the Exhibit 13-1, we can see that the net operating income is $12,000 higher with the new machine. So we can say that it is a better alternative. Note that the $12,000, we can get it in two different ways. First is in the net operating income, which is From the new machine, $30,000, and with the current situation, 18,000, we can come up with $12,000. And the other way is in the column of differential costs and benefits, which is from the direct labor, 15,000, and with the fixed expense, rent of the new machine is 3,000, mo nang naabot tayo $12,000. We could have arrived at the same solution much more quickly by completely ignoring the relevant costs and benefits. The selling price per unit and the number of units sold do not differ between the alternatives. They have no effect on the difference in the net operating income between the two alternatives. The direct materials cost per unit, variable overhead cost per unit, the number of units produced and sold do not differ between the alternatives, so they can also be ignored. The other fixed expense do not differ between the alternatives, so they can be ignored as well. The only costs that do differ between the alternatives are direct labor cost and the fixed rental cost of the new machine. Hence, the two alternatives can be compared based only on the relevant cost. Decrease in direct labor cost, 5,000 unit of a cost savings of $3 per unit, which is mo ng $15,000. Increase in fixed expense, 3,000, and we can get the net annual cost savings from the rental of new machine, $12,000. We get the same answer because the only cost and benefits that matter in the final comparison of the net operating incomes are those that differ between the two alternatives, which are the direct labor cost and the fixed rental cost of the new machine.
So adding and dropping product lines and other segments, deciding whether to discontinue or introduce product lines involves evaluating various qualitative and quantitative factors. Managers face a challenging task considering aspects such as market trends and financial data. Despite the complexity, the ultimate determinant is the effect on net operating income. Assessing this impact requires a thorough analysis of costs, emphasizing the critical role financial considerations play in shaping strategic business decisions. Moving on, diri sa Exhibit 13.2, nadiri ang sales and cost information sa preceding months sa discount drug company. Nadiri ang 3 major product lines: drugs, cosmetics, and housewares. So, suppose that discount drug company has analyzed the fixed cost being charged to the 3 product lines and has determined the following. Sa salaries expense, nag-represent sa salaries directly tied to the product line. If the line is dropped, all associated employees would be discharged. Then sa advertising expense, specific to each product line can be avoided if the line is dropped. For utilities expense, nadiri ang allocated based on space occupied. Not avoidable if the product line is dropped. Then there is a depreciation expense relates to fixtures for displaying product lines, custom-built fixtures with no resale value if the housewares line is dropped.
So number 5 is rent expense. So the rent expense of $20,000 is fixed cost and is allocated to product line based on sales dollars. So ang $20,000 is not avoidable if ang houseware product line is dropped. Therefore, ang full nga $4,000 is assigned to housewares, therefore it is not avoidable. So number 6 is insurance expense. So this expense is for insurance carried on inventories within each product line. So kung drop ang houseware line, the related inventories will be liquidated and insurance premium will decrease accordingly. So ang assigned nga $500 para sa housewares is avoidable since mo decrease man ang insurance premium kung mo discontinued pod ang product line. So next is the general administrative expense. So this expense represents cost of accounting, purchasing, and general management allocated to product lines based on sales dollars. So kini nga cost is dili siya mag-change if the houseware line is dropped. So ang full nga $6,000 which is assigned to the housewares is not avoidable. So after sa point 7, we can see here that the $15,000 of the fixed expenses associated with the houseware product lines are avoidable and the $13,000 are not. So both pasabot, if the houseware product line is dropped, the company would lose a contribution margin of $20,000 from that line operating income. So this reduction is calculated by subtracting the fixed cost, which is the $15,000, from the contribution margin lost, which is the $20,000.
So, in this case, therefore, it should not be discontinued unless a more profitable use can be found para floor and counter space nag-occupy. Sunod, na ato diri beware of allocated fixed cost. So balikan na to katong exhibit 13.2, nagsuggest to siya na ang housewares product line is losing money. Pero ang pangutana kay nganong ginakipam siya. So ang explanation ani lies in part with the common fixed costs that are being allocated to the product lines. So as we have observed in chapter 12, one of the great dangers in allocating common fixed costs is that such allocation can make a product line look kanang less profitable jud so kung unsa jud siya. So in this instance, allocating the common fixed costs among all product lines makes katong housewares line may appear to be unprofitable. However, as we have shown, ang katong pag-drop na to sa product line will nag-result siya in a decrease in the company's overall NOI. So ang kaning point ato jud siya nakita if ato jud i-redo ang exhibit 32 by eliminating the allocation of a common fixed cost. Diyan diri napunta exhibit 13.4. So ang kani diri nagamit na si Jag segmented approach from chapter 12 to estimate the profitability of the product lines. So as shown, the housewares line is covering all of its own traceable fixed costs and generating a 3,000 segment margin towards covering the common fixed costs of the company. So unless nanay another product line that na makita na mo generate po si Jag segment margin greater than $3,000, then the company would be better off keeping the housewares line. Yeah, by keeping the product line, the company's overall net operating income will be higher than if the product line were dropped.
Hello everyone, I am Avril Nicole T. Luego, and I'm going to introduce you to make or buy decision. Delivering a product or services to customers involves a connected series of steps called value chain. Companies can choose to handle each step independently or opt for vertical integration, engaging in various activities across the entire value chain. The decision, known as make or buy decision, whether to internally perform a task or outsource it, significantly influences a company's operational strategy. Thank you.
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Dayanara Pusaran and I will be the one discussing the strategic aspects of the make or buy decision. So vertical integration provides a certain advantage. An integrated company is less dependent on its suppliers and may be able to ensure a smaller flow of parts and materials for production than an integrated company. Like for example, a strike against a major parts supplier can interrupt the operation of a non-integrated company for many months, whereas an integrated company that is producing its own parts would be able to continue its operations. Also, some companies feel that they can control quality better by producing their own parts and materials rather than by relying on the quality control standards of outside suppliers. So in addition, an integrated company realizes profits from the parts and materials that it is making rather than buying, as well as profits from its regular operations. So the advantages of vertical integration are counterbalanced by the advantages of using external suppliers. By pulling demand from a number of companies, a supplier may be able to enjoy economies of scale. These economies of scale can result in a higher quality and lower cost than would be possible if the company were to attempt to make the parts or provide the service on its own. So a company must be careful, however, to retain control over activities that are essential to maintaining its competitive position. For example, Hewlett-Packard controls the software for laser printers that it makes it to cooperation with Canon Inc. of Japan. So the present trend appears to be toward less vertical integration, with companies like Sun Microsystems and Hewlett-Packard concentrating on hardware and software design and relying on outside suppliers for almost everything else in the value chain. So these factors suggest that the make or buy decision should be weighed very carefully.
To provide an illustration of a make or buy decision, consider mountain goat cycles. The company is now producing the heavy-duty gear shifts used in its most popular line of mountain bikes. The company's accounting department reports the following cost of producing 8,000 units of the shifter entirely each year. Then, an outside supplier has offered to sell 8,000 shifters a year to mountain goat cycles at a price of only $19 each. So there is a decision and also a choice whether to make or to buy shifters outside suppliers.
If the cost that can be avoided by purchasing the shifters from the outside suppliers total less than $19, then the company should continue to manufacture its own shifter and to reject the outside supplier offer. So on the other hand, if the cost that can be avoided by purchasing the shifters from the outside supplier total more than $19, the outside supplier offer should be accepted. So sa parts na make, i-add ta ng relevant cost to make, which is the direct material, direct labor, variable overhead, and supervisor salary. Then total cost is $112,000. Then to buy, para makuha ang cost is to multiply the price of shifters nga gi-offer sa outside supplier, which is $19, and the units, which is 8,000. Then total cost is $152,000. So ang cost to make a shifter is less cost than to buy them from outside supplier. So Mountain Goat Cycle should reject the outside supplier offers. So mas makatipid man or less cost if maghimo or produce og shifters, then the decision or choice is to make.
Hello everyone, I am Anna Michael William Moore, and our report is about the opportunity cost. So what is opportunity cost? So opportunity cost is a term used to represent the true cost of an economic decision and can be defined as the value of the next best alternative for one. So the primary concern of economics is the problem of relative scarcity. Resources are scarce relative to ones, and therefore choices must be made. For example, you've created a budget to try and save money. So you have to decide what your needs and wants are. You only have so much cash, so you need to make choices. So opportunity cost is what you lose by choosing one alternative over another. Because for every opportunity you choose, there might be something you need to give up.
To continue the discussion, the Production Possibility Frontier, or PPF, is a graphical representation used in economics to demonstrate the trade-offs of a society faced when allocating its resources between the production of two goods or services. The PPF illustrates the maximum potential output of one good for a given level of output of another, assuming all resources are being used efficiently. The simple way to calculate opportunity cost is simply to take slope, which is change in y over the change in x. So now to calculate the opportunity cost of y-axis, we use the change of y over the change of x, and for the calculation of y-axis, we do it in inverse, so we'll put the change in x over the change in y. This concept highlights that resources are limited, and as an economy chooses to produce more of one good, it must sacrifice some production of another. It demonstrates the principle of opportunity cost, the cost of choosing one alternative over another, which could be in terms of money, time, or resources. The PPF model allows policymakers and economists to analyze these trade-offs when making decisions about resource allocation, technological advancement, or policy changes that could affect the production of different goods and services in an economy.
Good day everyone. So I'm going to give you an example about the opportunity cost. So first example, deciding whether to spend $7 every morning or consistently invest that money in a retirement account. So obviously if you're not a coffee addict, you will choose the second opportunity, which is consistently invest that $7 each day to your retirement account, which is about $2,555 per year. So dako na siya kaayo. Well, if you're a coffee addict and you need that coffee for your work kay night shift ka and you want to get the health benefit of the coffee, which is coffee is an antioxidant. So you need to spend $7 every morning. So it's up to us kung unsa nga opportunity atong kuha. So second example is, if a car manufacturers could produce 10 cars worth $8,000 each or 5 trucks worth $12,000 each per day, the opportunity cost of choosing to produce trucks instead of cars is $20,000 as reflected through the opportunity cost. So what is the formula of opportunity cost? So the formula for the opportunity cost is opportunity cost is equals to return on most profitable investment choice minus return on investment chosen to pursue. So in the problem, the quantity of cars is 10 cars and the value of each car is $8,000. Wow, then imura na siya 8 times, then you will have $80,000. So on trucks, we have the quantity of 5 trucks, then the value of each truck is $12,000, Then I'm gonna put it times, so you will get $60,000 each day. So if you choose trucks over cars, then na may opportunity cost nga $20,000. So thank you. Lastly, in order for us to relate ourselves to the topic as a student now, especially this upcoming exam, to all lovebirds diya, or even individuals now, we have two opportunities to grab. First is we will focus on our studies, avoid muna sa mga distractions like playing MLs or even your partners now, in order for you to aim a high grade or just to pass the exam. No? Or on the other side, you will choose not to be stressed out, not to study, and you will want to spend a quality time with your partner now, or even partying, or just playing mobile games, especially so yeah, that second opportunity, if you grab that, so that will cost you failing the exam or not to pass the exam, no? So grab the opportunity wisely, no? Pero dili ta maabot sa point nga magpakaluoy na po sa mga maestro para mainat, just like this pictures. Yeah, and that's all for the opportunity cost. Thank you.
I am Ana Rosa Isabella Cosnagora, and I am going to report a special order. Managers must often evaluate whether a special order should be accepted, and if the order is accepted, the price that should be charged. What is a special order? A special order is a one-time order that is not considered part of the company's normal ongoing business. Example of this is the customization of your product. Like you only sell an ordinary pen, but the customer wants to make it special by engraving their names on the ball pen. To be more comprehensive, here is an illustration. In this problem, what effect would accepting this order have on the company's net operating income? Only the incremental costs and benefits are relevant because the existing fixed manufacturing overhead costs would not be affected by the order. They are not relevant. And to know this, the incremental net operating income can be computed as follows. The price of the bikes per unit multiplied by the number of units is equal to $55,800 incremental revenue. This will be subtracted by the total incremental cost of $53,200, which consists of the variable cost and the fixed cost, resulting to the $2,600 of incremental net operating income. Therefore, even though the $558 price of the special order is below the normal, which is $564 unit product cost, and the order would require additional costs, the order would increase net operating income. In general, a special order is profitable if the incremental revenue from the special order exceed the incremental cost of the order. However, it is important to make sure that there is indeed idle capacity and that the special order does not cut into normal unit sales or undercut prices on normal sales. For example, if the company was operating at capacity, opportunity costs would have to be taken into account as well as the incremental costs that have already been detailed above.
Utilization of a constrained resource. Managers routinely face the problem of deciding how constrained resources are going to be used. When a limited resource of some type restricts the company's ability to satisfy the demand, the company has a constraint. Because a company cannot fully satisfy demand, managers must decide which products or services should be cut back. The key to maximizing the total contribution may seem obvious. So we think na it will favor the products with the highest unit contribution margin, but unfortunately, the correct solution is to provide the highest contribution margin per unit of the constrained resource. For a better understanding, we have here an illustration. Mountain Goat Cycles makes saddlebags for bicycles called panniers. So, as you can see in the illustration, we have their mountain pannier and the touring pannier. So these are the two models from the Mountain Goat Cycles. So as you can see, the selling price unit for the mountain pannier is $25. While on the other hand, we have $30. For the variable cost per unit, we have 10. And the variable cost per unit for the touring pannier is 18. So when we compute it, the contribution margin per unit of the mountain pannier is $15, while the other hand is $12. For the contribution margin ratio, we have 60% for the mountain pannier and 40% for the touring pannier. So it shows in the illustration that mountain pannier is more profitable than touring pannier. Machine is considered here as the bottleneck of the business. So as you can see in the second illustration, it is provided that the contribution margin per unit of the mountain pannier is $15, while on the other hand, it has $12. So the stitching machine time required to produce 1 unit for the mountain pannier is 2 minutes, while on the touring pannier, it only takes 1 minute. You divide the contribution margin per unit with the stitching machine time, so you will get the contribution margin per unit of the constrained resource, which is $7.5 per minute. While on the other hand, the touring pannier, we have $12 per minute. Comparable figure for the mountain pannier is only $7.50 per minute. So therefore, the touring model should be emphasized. Even though the mountain model has a larger contribution margin per unit and a larger CM ratio, the touring model provides the larger contribution margin in relation to the constrained resources.
Managing constraints. Effectively managing an organization's constraint is a key to increase profits. Effective management of a bottleneck constraint involves selecting the most profitable product mix and finding ways to increase the capacity of the bottleneck of operation. Example, the stitching machine operator could be asked to work overtime. This would result in more available stitching time and hence the production of more finished goods that can be sold. The benefits from relaxing the constraint are often enormous and can be easily quantified. The manager should first ask, what would I do with additional capacity at the bottleneck if it were available? Managing constraint is a critical function for organizations seeking to navigate challenges and achieving sustainable success. By systematically identifying, analyzing, addressing, monitoring, and optimizing resource allocation in response to constraints, organizations can enhance their resilience and adaptability in dynamic environments.
So the capacity of a bottleneck can be effectively increased in a number of ways, including working overtime on the bottleneck, subcontracting of some of the processing that would be done at the bottleneck, investing in additional machines at a bottleneck, shifting workers from processes that are not bottlenecks to the process that is bottleneck, and focusing business process improvement efforts such as Six Sigma on the bottleneck, and reducing defective units, and each defective unit that is processed through the bottleneck and subsequently scrap takes the place of a good unit that could have been sold. So the problem of multiple constraints is what does a company do if it has more than one potential constraint? So for example, a company may have limited raw materials, limited direct labor hours available, limited floor space, and limited advertising dollars to spend on a product promotion. So how would it determine the right combination of products to produce? So the proper combination or mix of products can be found by use of a quantitative method known as linear programming, so which is covered in quantitative methods and operations management courses.
Joint product cost and the contribution approach. Before going to the main point of this lesson, let us first get to know and familiarize the key terms that will be used throughout the discussion. First, we have here the joint cost. Joint cost refers to the price incurred by manufacturers that goes into producing more than one product or process. These costs include labor, material, and overhead costs towards the production of joint product and are calculated until the split-off point. The split-off point is the point in a production process where jointly manufactured products are henceforth manufactured separately, thus their costs can be identified individually after the split-off point. Next, we have here the separable cost. To enlighten you about what separable cost is, let us go back to joint cost. So joint costs are costs incurred before the point at which separately identifiable products are emerged from the identical process. After the joint cost comes the split-off point, the point where you can separately identify the cost of two or more products. Now, after the split-off point appears the separable cost. Each and every product separately identified after the split-off point incurs separable costs. Next, we have here the joint products and byproducts. To provide you a better knowledge about these two terms, let us know the differences, or let's distinguish joint product from byproduct. Joint products are the products which are produced simultaneously with the same raw material and process and requires further processing to become a finished product after they are separated. On the other hand, the byproduct is nothing but the subsidiary product which emerges out in the course of manufacturing of the main product. In other words, the byproduct is just an article of value incidental to the manufacture of the main product or made from the waste material arising from such manufacture. So basically, the main difference between joint product and byproduct lies in the fact that whether the company produced the product on purposely or it emerged additionally as a result of ongoing production.
Let's apply the terms in Exhibit 13, Figure 6, the diagram of the production process at Santa Maria Wool Cooperative. The company buys raw wool from local sheep herders, separates the wool into 3 grades, coarse, fine, and superfine, then dyes the wool using traditional methods that rely on pigments from local materials. The term joint cost is used to describe the cost incurred that yields multiple products up to the split-off point. The split-off point does not occur at the Santa Maria Cooperative until the raw wool has gone through the separation process. Joint costs are the $200,000 cost of the raw wool and the $400,000 cost of separating the wool. The undyed wool is called an intermediate product because it is not finished at this point. Nevertheless, a market does exist for undyed wool, although at a significant lower price than finished dyed wool. The dyeing of wool is a separate product cost, which is incurred after the split-off point. Each and every product is separately identified. The last part in the diagram is the end products, which is also called finished products. The dyed coarse wool, dyed fine wool, and dyed superfine wool that generated a total sales of $490,000.
In order to address the question of how we should now allocate the joint cost, let's continue the discussion. We have two approaches. One is physical measure output, and that measures output physically, and the other is market-based approach and has 3 types. First, sales value at split off, or the price at which sales are solely based, is important to note. The next factor is net realizable value, which is the sales price less the cost of completion, disposal, and the sale. The third factor is constant gross profit margin percentage, which indicates that each joint product should have an equal gross profit. From there, we calculate the joint cost for each joint product by working backwards. Taking into consideration byproducts, it has 2 treatments, the method of production and the method of sales. Here we obtain the net realizable value for the production method, which is then recognized by product inventory and subtracted from the joint cost. Thus, for this entry, the inventory will be credited and the byproduct inventory will be debited. There is no deduction from the joint cost for the sales method, which is another approach, and revenue is recognized only when the byproduct is sold.
Activity-based costing, or ABC for short, is a cost accounting method that allocates indirect costs based on activities that drive cost. It involves identifying various activities within an organization and assigning cost to these activities and then allocating this cost to products or services based on their consumption of these activities. ABC provides a much accurate representation of the true costs associated with products or services by recognizing that not all of these activities contribute equally to overall cost. Relevant costs. So relevant costs refers to costs that are pertinent to a specific decision-making scenario. These costs influence the outcome of a decision by changing if the decision is made or not. Relevant costs are future-oriented and differ between alternatives. Understanding and identifying relevant costs that are crucial for effective decision-making in business.
Hi guys! So, since Mr. J. Bilbao already discussed a short recall about the activity-based costing and a short description about what this relevant cost means, at this moment, I will give you an example of relevant cost and I will show you on how to solve this kind of problem. So without further ado, let's begin. So here's the problem. ABC company is considering whether to continue manufacturing a particular product or to outsource its production. So the following information is available. So for you to understand the problem more easily, so magbisaya lang ko. So in-house production, nasidyay direct material cost na $20 per unit. Then nasidyay labor cost na $15 per unit and variable manufacturing overhead which is $10 per unit and additional cost for in-house production, which is $5,000 fixed cost per month. Then, on the other hand, which is the external supplier, NASIJAI purchase price from external supplier, which is the $50 per unit. So here's the problem. If the company currently produces 1,000 units of products per month, should ABC company continue to manufacture the product in-house or outsource it? So in order to solve that, I will show you. So, kung imong totalon ang katong in-house relevant cost per unit, which is katong mga direct materials, direct labor, katong manufacturing overhead, so 20 plus 10 plus 15, mo total siya og $45. While on the other hand, sa external relevant cost per unit, naka-fix na siya nga $50. So, na-difference ng $5. But, considering the fixed cost for in-house production na katong 5,000 per month, we can ato na siyang ma-calculate ang total fixed cost per unit unsaan man. In order to find out nga unsaan to natug add ang katong 5,000, so ato na siyang i-total sa convert into per unit. So natay formula nga total fixed cost per unit is equals to the additional cost for in-house production divided by the number of units. So, mana siya. So, sa mga value. So, first, ang atong ibutang na value sa denominator is ang 5,000. Then, divided by sa 1,000. Then, ato na siyang i-total. May equal na siya og $5. So, naanatay fixed cost per unit nga $5 sa in-house production cost. Then, ang katong $5, since mo to CJ additional, we just simply add. Ato na siya i-add. So, di ba kay 45? 45, diba? Then, ato din i-add ang 5. So, mahiwa na siyang 50. And comparing the relevant cost, so, sa in-house relevant cost per unit, naan na tayo $50. While on the other hand, sa external relevant cost per unit, naabot tayo $50. So, since both costs are equal, ABC company could choose either option without affecting the total cost. Other factors such as quality, control, or strategic considerations may need to be considered in making the final decision. So that would be all. Thank you.